Of all the lessons that we were taught in school, one of the most memorable was that in 1492, Christopher Columbus discovered North America. Since then, many theories have come forth challenging Columbus's claim. But to make any of these theories possible, we must first take a look at the countries that were even capable of taking on such an endeavor. Who would have dared to cross the turbulent Atlantic to reach this new world? Who would venture into the uncharted territory seeking its untold wealth and resources? The Phoenicians, in their search for not only gold, silver, but copper, iron, tin, and lead. The North seafarers, sometimes called Vikings, in their conquest of land and wealth. The Scottish and Welsh, who have been mentioned in medieval Catholic journals as traveling to this new world, and whose motivations are still unknown. The French, to establish a new colony and capitalize on the region's vast resources. The English, wishing to extend the crown's influence and power in the new world. Or even more compelling, a place of safe harbor for a disbanded but spirited organization of brothers, whose will and purpose was greater than the slaughter of its ranks. A place in the New World for refugees from their attack and betrayal on October 13, 1307. Was this a place for refugees that would put them beyond papal reach and papal bulls? Could this place of medieval building techniques, with its symbols and alignments, be reflective of Templar activity in the Old World? Could this be one of the many places in the region that became home for the remnants of the Knights Templar themselves? Since first making the discovery on a cold winter day in the mid-1980s, these were among the questions that were on the mind of lead investigator and tribal elder Wayne Murphy.
Kind of brought everybody together, is that correct?
Well, it was quite an interesting thing the way this happened, and about the 1980s, I was hunting back in the woods. We had a large snowstorm, and me and my brother were back there, and we had about a foot of snow. He went his way, I went mine, and anybody who's a hunter appreciates having some snow and ground cover and things like that. But I was going to a new area that I've hunted for years, but I came in from a different way this time. And as I was approaching this area, I could see the river where I wanted to be, but I noticed that the land didn't look right. And as I got closer, you got to be careful going through a foot of snow because you just don't know what's underneath it. All of a sudden, I come to a rock ledge.
Oh, wow.
And as I got closer, I said, holy man, this is about 30 feet down.
Wow.
So I made my way around, and I came upon this cave, which I call the cave, having no experience at all in Templars and things like that. So I did the smart thing. I threw a large stick inside because we have wolves and bears and mountain lions, and when they didn't throw it back out, I felt pretty good.
Yeah.
So I went in, and once I got in there, I realized that this wasn't your natural cave because the walls were flat and square at 90 degrees. It's never about the catch. It's always about the hunt, the chase, looking for and finding. And it's never about the catch. It's always the hunt.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday night segment of The Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live right here on the United Public Radio Network UFO Paranormal Radio Network 105.3 FM from the Gulf Coast, 107.7 FM from beautiful New Orleans. We're fully sponsored by the amazing folks over at Folgers Coffee who have been a part of our journey for several years now. So thank you, Folgers. We couldn't do it without you, nor would we want to. Also, big thank you to Justin Snicker, aka Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon, for his contribution of his time, his music, and his voice for the intro that you just heard. He is an award-winning composer of Halloween horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, which can be found on all of your favorite music streaming platforms. Also, thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind the banners and logos here at the show. Check him out on Facebook and Instagram. Also specializes in the horror genre, but does phenomenal commission pieces. So tonight is a treat, of course, because we are bringing back two friends and favorites, Wayne Murphy and Shawn Williamson. You guys should go check out the channel. You'll see that there are other shows with them. Pretty much this. Well, Shawn's got different topics. Wayne's pretty much the same idea, but it goes to show that this has been an ongoing journey to research throughout several years now. And a lot has been uncovered, a lot has been discovered, and we have show and tell as well. So a lot of sites are starting to turn up. And I think it's one of those things where it's not exactly what they all figured it would be. Don't get me wrong, there's Templars, but there is a heck of a lot more. And this is going to be one of these locations that is going to prove historically valuable on so many different levels. So we are just waiting now for Shawn to join us. And we've got Wayne. So waiting on Shawn, and then we will bring the guys forward. So lots of goodies in store tonight. Hold on here. There we go. I've got that ready to go as well. So we do have pictures. Yes, we do. We love show and tell here, don't we? Anyway, so how's it going, Amelia?
Okay, how are you?
Good. A little bit thrown off because the whole other intro.
I know, I didn't, and you didn't tell me. So I'm hearing this music and I'm going, and I'm like, can she see me from the other side going?
I didn't see a thing.
Yeah, until it played out, then I realized it was Wayne's, and I'm like, okay.
That's it. Yeah, it's a great intro. I've always loved the video. It's
beautiful.
So well done.
Really well done.
Yeah, it really is. And honestly, it just pretty much invites you in, it draws you in, and basically it ends and you're just like, okay, what the hell? This is where it stops. more.
Exactly.
I know. So you guys are just going to have to go to their YouTube page, and there are other videos there, and it is in the show description, just so you all know. So you'll be able to go and check them out a little bit later on, of course, after the show.
Yeah, not before.
Well, you're not going to want to miss this stuff. So anyway, we are on 8 platforms again tonight, guys. Remember, it's like a super highway coming down to one, bumper to bumper lane. So Roku, of course, Roku TV does not have a chat room. So we've got our 3 YouTube channels, which is UFO Gods Extraterrestrial, Outer Realm, of course, UFO Paranormal, United Public Radio. And then we've got all of our Facebook channels for the network, and of course, the Outer Realm. So we try to bring everybody in here to the YouTube chat. It just makes it so much easier to navigate, and it's awesome watching you guys interact with one another. So we'll start up with a few comments while we wait. And Alan.
You want me to read it?
Yeah, please.
Alan, hi, Alan. I'm eager to see what evidence there is that the Knights Templar were here in the U.S. I thought they were mostly in Europe and the Middle East.
Surprise!
I like Wayne's comment because I was on that today, and it took me an hour to drive 20-minute drive took me an hour. Early.
It was brutal.
It was brutal today. But where we live, they like to, I don't know where you guys live, but where we live, they like to close all the main arteries in the summer and then give you all these detours.
And put construction on those detours.
Pardon?
And then put construction on the detours.
Yes. You see, and you don't see the D sign until you're right in front of the light. And it's like, I'm on the other side. So now I have to UE or go around. It was one of those days, and then I couldn't find parking. I was livid. But anyways, I hate when I'm out all day driving. Like when because you do a lot of that.
There's a show. There's a show there.
Yeah.
For that. But anyway, our guests of honor are here, and we're so very excited to welcome them back. And Shawn is a champion because it's like 2:20 a.m. over there for him, right?
Yeah.
So I know. So he's just getting himself organized. Wayne is here, looking all ready to go. And Shawn, are you ready? You could just nod if you are. If you're not, I don't think he is yet. So, oh look, and Mark is from the UK as well. So
hi, Mark.
And Shawn's from the UK. So
wow,
he's got a fellow UK.
Your people are here.
I know.
That's a rough night, but we're so honored.
Are you ready, Shawn? Are you good? Well, I'll bring you on. Just nod if you're good to go. Yeah. Okay, we're good to go. Without further ado, we've got Wayne Murphy, Shawn Williamson. Hello.
Hi, guys.
Hello. Oh, Shawn,
you need your mic. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, you have to unmute yourself. Yeah, there we go. Gang's all here. Hello.
Can you hear me okay?
We sure can. How are you guys?
Great.
Yeah, you sound great. So did you see the fabulous intro we gave you? We played your video and just got everybody all excited and ready to go.
Beautiful.
I know. It threw me off too because I'm used to a standard intro, and I was sort of at the end of it going.
You knew it was going up though.
I did.
Someone forgot to tell me.
I know.
I'm like, what the heck? I thought we were on the wrong intro.
That's because I'm creative.
Yeah.
That's what I do. So the last time you guys were on, I can't hear you at all, Wayne. Uh-oh.
I didn't even know he was talking because I got the lights in my eyes.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll start with Shawn then.
I was just gonna say, can you bring your camera closer, Shawn?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Perfect. Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's perfect.
You looked a little bit like you were on the edge of a cliff.
Still can't hear
I
you,
am.
Wayne.
No.
I am.
I'm on the edge of a cliff.
No.
Actually on the edge of a lake.
Beautiful.
I'm so jealous.
Wayne, you have to maybe just check your sound settings, but you have to give StreamYard permission, much like Zoom, to use the camera and the microphone or the sound. So you might want to pop back out and pop back in. Make sure you give. Yeah, so I would recommend that. So Shawn, since the last time you guys were on. You guys have been really, really busy with a lot of research and such. So while we wait for Wayne, where do you want to catch up? Do you want to just start briefly on what your role has been in all of this and the journey it's taken you on?
Yeah, well, I'm going to try and make it sound so it's not kind of Lord of the Rings.
Right. Oh, come on.
You know, right. But it's been a long journey, and I originally started off as a stonemason working on cathedrals, and then, you know, went into sculpting figures in this country and the United States as a professional sculptor. I also did a lot of replication for museums of medieval works particularly, and it's been wall-to-wall medieval pageant, shall we say, of stone. And I met Andrew Sinclair, and we worked together on researching Knight Templar tombstones.
Wow.
And, you know, recently you've probably seen that with Hamilton White and Andrew Sinclair, we did a nice paper booklet, which actually includes the foremost research of the genre, shall we say. So there was that, and I write fictionally as well, although the fiction is fact disguised as fiction.
And we've covered that on the show as well.
Yeah, Nathan Newman and the Questa series, which we're working towards creating a video game from. And at the moment, I'm on Lake Windermere in a bus, and this is I call it the exploration bus, although it goes nowhere, but it's good for the mind, you know.
Oh, absolutely. And the writing.
Yeah, and the writing. And I've been involved for a long time, actually, in the Langdale Valley archaeological investigations for Neolithic axe factory up there, which, you know, thousands of years ago, these axe heads carved in stone have gone all over the world, and just one of many projects I've been involved in. Cover the planet too thinly, I think, but it's been a great journey.
Oh, I love it. Sounds exciting. Of course, just being left alone somewhere in Scotland by the water is exciting to me as well. When you don't want to do peopling anymore, you just want to go and be left alone for a while. Wayne, do we have sound? Oh, no sound. No sound. Nope. No, you might have to go into your settings and just check the sound.
What browsers are you using?
I know. Yeah, you've used the platform before. Absolutely should be. If you can use Zoom, you could definitely use this one. You've done this show on this exact platform, so your computer should like it. So, yeah, I'll let you fumble around a bit, and we'll continue on. So it's been exciting, you know. We'll back up a bit when we can get sound from Wayne, but it's been an exciting journey. So when Wayne initially came to you, this is just to catch people up. We have so many more and like new listeners. Oh,
Testing.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Okay.
Even a blind squirrel finds a nut now and then.
I know.
Oh my Lord.
Outstanding. Well, welcome.
Thank you so much for having us back. It's great.
It is a pleasure. I was just going to pose a question to Shawn, and now I can pose it to both of you. We have so many new listeners now that we just want to bring everybody up to speed. They've just watched the video, which was incredible. So just bring us up to speed with the Wisconsin site. What are you proposing is there? And either one of you, Wayne, you can start. Shawn, jump in, feel free. You know, it's very roundtable-like discussion. So.
The Wisconsin project is quite an amazing project in itself. What started off just as a supposedly cave has grown, and it's pretty well known worldwide of what we're working on. And it came to fruition more after I was able to join up with Shawn. When I've been in police work for 30 years and done a lot of investigations, and never had done one of these kind of investigations, but I treated it as such. Every investigation works backwards. And not having a lot of knowledge in this, I tried to learn as much as I could very quickly, and did a lot of studying, did some stumbling around, obviously. And then as I started meeting people and learning more and more, I thought, you know, since I'm an investigator, I'm going to treat this as a crime scene and work backwards and try to find out who, what, when, where, and why. Somebody made this tomb, somebody made these carvings, and I wasn't sure just why. For lack of better descriptors, this thing is like a voice in the woods. It's calling, and I found it years and years ago. Didn't know what to think of it. Put it aside. It wasn't until 2018 that I come across the carving in her large rock, a standalone rock. It was almost like a marker stone, and on that stone, I thought I found was a cross pate carved into the rock. So I had my brother with me, and he didn't know what it was, and I had a little knowledge of it. So I said, let's go back to this tomb, and he didn't know where it was, and so I took him back there. I said, by itself, this is kind of significant, having this type of mark so far back in the forest, and it's being carved in a large granite stone. It shouldn't be here, because at that time didn't possess the knowledge or the type of iron instruments that you would use to make these carvings. So we go back to the tomb, and I start looking around, and I, through the camera, start to begin to see other carvings. They're a little more faint now than they were originally in 2018 because of the erosion process. But what I did was that there's a large round face rock on top, and so I took a lot of photos and everything. And then in my search, I started to find out people who had knowledge on this. And then someone mentioned Shawn Williamson. So never having met Shawn before, I reached out. I think it was through Facebook Messenger. And I think he was doing a carving at the time. And I suppose he thought, who is this pesky guy sending me these pictures of rocks when I'm carving rocks? So I sent him a couple of pictures, and all of a sudden he starts responding back, and he says, I think they look Celtic in nature. So then over the years, working with Shawn, he has really helped this progress a lot with his knowledge of rock carving techniques, able to read certain signs in the rock. And through the years, with both of my sons, my oldest son did the reenactment scene, and my youngest son, he took an interest in it, and we were able to find 5 sites. So this thing expanded greatly, and as you wade through researchers, you try to find like-minded researchers. We weren't looking for no holy grail. We weren't looking for a sword or anything like that. I was just looking for the truth. I probably spent 8 months trying to disprove this. How could this be here? How could all of these rocks be here? Why are these carvings here? Because once you disprove it, there's only one element left, and that's possibly the truth. So then Shawn, he can tell you his experience with other researchers, but we were like-minded brothers across the big pond, because we had the same intentions. We just wanted to know why. And with Shawn's vast knowledge, this is really coming to light, because we're making more and more discoveries in the last few years that are just head turning.
I knew you would. So, Shawn, what were your thoughts when he started sending you some carvings? Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Michelle. Yeah, it was a kind of a weird period. I think it was during the pandemic, but the first thing that struck me about Wayne was that, he's got some really serious skills professionally as a police investigator, and involved in homicides and all sorts of stuff. And I thought, this is a serious man, And the weird thing was that in my misspent youth, I'd been a sailor on the Great Lakes, and probably sailed opposite where Wayne's site is on Lake Superior, Wisconsin. And every year up to about 2014-15, I used to return to Duluth and those areas just to visit friends. Sometimes I'd stay over for a couple of months. So I had some connection with the area by chance in any case. And as soon as I started getting the the high-res photos from Wayne of the carvings, it was like alarm bells ringing, and I thought, this is really strange. And one of the carvings on this edifice, which to all intents and purposes I thought looked like a Celtic tomb that I've investigated in Scotland, or maybe there's some standardized style that they were using across several centuries to create these tomb-like structures. But on some of the stones were incredible carvings, and one in particular, which was a circle, had been carved in a very rough surface, which, if you know about incision and how to carve with mallet and chisel, for instance, it's not just an easy affair to get something that looks perfectly round. But lo and behold, on this tomb structure, there was a circular figure, and with what looks to be like a fish inside it. And I thought, this has got to be medieval, based on my knowledge of medieval carvings. It may be a little earlier, I don't know, perhaps early medieval, but somewhere between 1100 and 1400. Wow. Which corresponds with the roughly the time period of the Knights Templar, and in my opinion kept going up to 1400, well after their dissolution, through another mechanism, shall we say, through the Sinclairs, right, when they were looking after Templar treasures. And we know that the Sinclairs had a huge fleet, and I believe that fleet went to assist the Templars down in La Rochelle. And that brings me back again to the north of Scotland, where most winters I'm there. We've done, I've done a few podcasts with you guys from there, actually, and it's my point of investigation of the castle. But I was actually, up to 2016, was the last informal keeper of the castle, and I got to find a lot of things after that whole system there had gone. Many people had started, they were older guys, they'd started to pass away, and there was just me left there looking after this lighthouse in remote Scotland, looking over the Pentland Firth, gathering up letters and bits of information. And Andrew Sinclair, of course, was still alive, because he lived, the great writer, obviously, he died in 2019. So I was able to corroborate with him accordingly, with extra findings, or shall we say extra value to the whole prognosis, the whole system of the, did the Templars go to North America stuff, of course, which he was an eminent scholar and investigated the Newport Tower. So I was able to bring Wayne up to speed with that, and also I was able to learn vast amounts from Wayne regarding the Mohican Nation and their involvement in history, and sometimes marginalized or sidelined. And we've got areas that nobody else has been, and it's not available in common history, shall we say. And that doesn't negate it. I think that makes it more prominent and bigger, to some extent, because we're bringing native culture and their perspective on the whole history of North America, which is incredibly important role. And so to continue just a little bit more, the project to that extent was endorsed by others as well, and there's something very, very big happening, I think, on Wayne's site, and he'll probably be able to tell you about some of the magnetic anomalies when with electronic equipment around that site. And it just gets deeper and bigger all the time. What was there or what is there remains to be seen. But we know that something had been happening around there because of the carvings, and something obviously significant.
I would agree with you on that. And just holding tight too, we will be showing some of the photos that you guys have sent pertaining to some of the things that you've just spoken about as well. So Wayne, we'll jump back over to you then. So there are 5 sites in total. Can you talk a little bit more about what you've been discovering on these different sites?
The 5 sites, it was over a period of time, and they're all in relationship to the tomb, the river. And then when we went side of the river, I took some people with me who had some interest in, and as you do this kind of work and research, if they would have been investigators, they would have looked at it from a different point of view. And I eventually had to let them people go because they were looking for treasure, and I was trying to look for history. And one of the strange things I come across was on a very large rock cropping near a falls, large waterfalls. I saw an emblem of a carved fish, like the Latin style fish. And that shouldn't have been there. A little further downriver, on the rock in the water, there was a carved wheel like a compass. And it was almost like there was, if you can imagine 2 basketballs, the outer edges of them, and then one was just slid over the other one. But you could see the lines, and you could see they were curved to resemble like a globe. And it almost looked like a wheel compass. And you can see the lines running north and south. None of these carvings are standing out with big red signals on them, over here. You have to understand what you're looking for. And then my son came across a site he thought was pretty familiar, or pretty odd, rather. He started finding these cut stones. So we went back there and took a lot of measurements. And some of these, there was 3 of them that we found were keystones in the shape of keystones. And they probably weigh 25 to 30 pounds a piece. And they must be about a foot wide at the top. And then they come down to a triangle. And some of these were buried under the ground, almost covered up. But I could tell by the shape sticking out that these were odd. And some of these rocks were 2 feet square by 3 feet long, solid granite. And they were lifted out of a place where they were quarried. So I told my son, I said, jump in that hole, would you? Because it was only about 2 feet away. It must have been hundreds of pounds for that rectangular rock. And you can still see the rough carving in it where it was being shaped, but it's definitely. And then laying next to it, you'd see other partially carved rectangular rocks sticking out of the ground. And so then as we started looking around more, we found slabs of rock. Some were 2 inches thick, and they would be 36 inches long, and they'd be about 2 feet. Some of them had notched. They were notched on the inside. And then when I had showed these to Shawn, it looked like he said it looked like someone was building something or preparing to build something. And I bet you there's probably 200 of these.
Oh, we lost you there. We lost you. Can't hear you. Can't hear you. Nope.
back
there you go.
in.
Yeah, you're back
Yep,
in.
you're
Okay.
good. You're good.
Okay.
And you could see some of these large rectangular rocks were rough quarried. And some of these other flat ones, they must have been worked for a while and they've been slabbed off. Shawn can tell you that technique. But someone, it appears there was building something or was planning to build something. And what I do is when I come across these sites, I do star mapping. I have a device on my phone, software, that when I'm on these sites, I can see what constellations overhead. And like Shawn was talking about the fish symbol, it's a very large rock with a fish with the circle inside of it. And right above it was Feisties. Now,
I was there. I was there.
I don't know. So, okay. All right.
And,
So continue.
so then as I got onto these other sites, these other constellations were all lining up. One was, I can't think of the name of the constellation, but it was this hold of scales near this building site. If you can help me out, man.
You're in and out. Yeah, you're in and out. You're cutting in and out.
Am I okay now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'll try not to move too much. And well, all of these were starting to line up. And it wasn't till later on, as I got into this investigation, I discovered two ancient lines of travel that went all the way over to Europe. And so these people that were doing this carving, I don't believe were Native Americans at all. They were Celtic, they were European at some time. And Shawn was his best guess because everything on the ground is only surface examined with very little bit of digging because we want to save the evidence that's there. And it's very important that this be documented in such a way where you get there, camera people are there. When you find this, it's just going to be so amazing because what's below the ground, we did some metal detecting work and we were getting all kinds of signals. And we just let everything sit there waiting to be discovered because we want it to be an honest investigation right from the beginning. Have outside people there watching there at the time of discovery, I think is so important to bring.
I think it's important because you want to do it from an archaeological standpoint as well. You want to do it like layer by layer, block by block. And that way everything gets properly documented and they can rebuild it. So Shawn, what are your thoughts on all of these structures that are being located? I mean, are we beyond Templar time now? Like, are we before this? Because Templars did have a way of adopting what they found, right?
Yeah, that's essentially, I think, what happened, and that this structure was already there. But ancient people were very clever with limiting the amount of work that they did because they knew about labor intensiveness, shall we say, and if they could repurpose something that was already there, they wouldn't attempt to knock it down. They would rebuild it. And that's what I saw. I saw that stones had been fitted together that were already there, like almost like a jigsaw puzzle. And with this tomb-like feel to it, with a great boulder on top. And many of the tomb of the Celts, for instance, and other races, the precision, it was so precise how they were able to block an entrance with a stone that fit exactly. And so once that stone was in place, whatever was in there would be very, very difficult to get at. And I saw that in the photographs that I was receiving from Wayne. But I also saw the later hand of somebody or some group going over there and making these carvings on it. So it was almost like it was perhaps a medieval discovery that it was marking by some other transatlantic travelers, shall we say, for want of a better way of describing them. And because I'd done a lot of work on the Templars, and the Templars had their own stonemasons, they were totally different from anything that had gone before, in as much as that they had their stonemasons virtually took the same vow as their sergeants and knights. And this was by way of appreciation, shall we say, of the Temple of Solomon, which of course they had investigated. So quite a lot of the symbolism was, although it didn't match exactly, I was getting pings and references from them on this tomb. And yeah, of course I'd like to go back and do further examination, but there's a protocol involved, and Wayne has got to go through the Mohican Nation Committee and work with other professional archaeological investigators as well. But in terms of my expertise, it's directly how these people's ancient civilizations worked in stone. And I do validation of forgery as well for various traders, shall we say, in London. And you begin to pick up ways of being able to see what's real and what's not by stylistic methods, shall we say. So I suppose I'm a perfect fit for what's going on. But there's a new dawn really on Templarism and investigation, and many people coming forward now with information, and I think we're ready for some big breakthroughs.
Okay, so we're looking at ancient structures. Do you have any idea, either one of you, who could have built these structures? Because, granted, it's no small feat. And I don't feel the Native American people would have had much use for it back that far ago. That would have been a huge undertaking.
About 10 months ago, someone sent me a picture. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes.
And they had sent it to some other people to look at, and it lay dormant for about 2 years.
Right.
So they sent me a bunch of pictures, and I work with another researcher in London, Sarah Jane Goldingham, and she just has a tremendous amount of knowledge about the Norse and the writing. So I said, Sarah, would you take a look at these pictures that I received? And it was in 30 seconds. She says, Wayne, that's a Viking land claim symbol.
Aha. Very nice.
And what's unique about this, it fits on our ancient line of travel. So all the way from the East Coast, we got 2 lines that we know about. I don't know why no one else has found them. That's fine. But we know of 2 ancient lines of travel that we're following. And now this goes all the way from the East Coast all the way to Minnesota. And we know where that line is. We know where both lines are. And we know some of the artifacts that have been found on both of those lines have dated back to the Vikings. And I was curious because when this woman found them, she was so upset that nobody would look at them. And then we sent them around the world to our research team. And they were just all excited about this. Where did you find this at, And I was able to read one and confirm it, and then I had Sarah confirm the other ones. But what it shows that these people knew of this navigation, this style of navigation. So then what I did is I started looking into old time navigation. So I contacted one of my researcher friends in France, and we started discussing this. And we've been talking for several years. And Shawn knows of him and has talked to him before. This guy does research for other researchers.
Right.
How good he is, you know. So why he's talking to me, I think maybe he finds me amusing or interesting or all of the above. But we talked for years, and he says, Wayne, he says, of all the sites that I've seen and looked at and the research I've done, he says, I believe yours the. He says, and now all you need to do is find something there. We have the there. And it's when you work with people like Shawn Williamson who have that skill, but they have the right mindset and the right attitude, you know, of wanting to find the truth. Just like you ladies, you're always in search of the truth. So you look at many factors, you look at many different ways. I say it's kind of like building a table. There's other things that you ladies know of, which we will keep ourselves, but it's that fourth leg, and it makes that table complete. So there's a lot to be discussed and a lot to be found.
I believe it was given to you for a purpose. That's why no one else found it or found this path, is because it belongs to you. It belongs to you and your people to tell the story.
You know, it's kind of like a haunting. I don't know how to explain it for lack of better descriptors. I'd go back there and hunted or raised all my life. And all of a sudden it felt like I was misplaced. 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And I'm like,
missing time.
That's a whole other entity.
Time was like shifted, or I couldn't, it sounds stupid, you know, carrying a high.
It doesn't sound stupid at all.
It doesn't. I'll tell you, the ancients, and I'm sure Shawn can collaborate this, working around so many ancient monuments out in the UK, Scotland. The ancients built around areas that they believed were power spots. Is that right, Shawn?
Yeah. I mean, various ways to describe that, but, you know, some we'll call it ley lines or
sure
specific routes, or, you know, quite often they would build over water, running water. It's called telluric power. And they had an energizing effect, you know, to the building. I mean, I did some work with Andrew on building as resonators, as something that amplifies spirituality to some extent. And who can deny that when you go into a cathedral, people are not overcome with this? And quite often you'll find that there's mechanisms involved to aid human spirituality in these sacred places. And stone, for instance, is a great resonator. It has a curious effect on us when, like, for instance, when we're splitting rock, for instance, where I work, sometimes we do 2 to 3 ton blocks. We split the rocks, and the booming sound of the process, working with hammer and chisels whilst we're splitting these big rocks, is almost like the sound of bells, and that gives you a curious feeling as well. So it's all integrated, but it's such a huge subject. We can only convey sound bites really in you know, on a show like this. But I'm pulling together a big book on, it's called the Lost Book of Zed, or Z, and it's going to be about the building techniques of the ancient peoples, and they were able to achieve so much more than we actually can realize, because from our modern perspective, we've lost what they had.
Yes.
Their ability to work together as teams, their ability to be able to know stone intimately. And, you know, when you look at what the world is made up of in the past, it's stone civilizations and ancient buildings. We've lost so much in this modern period of time, and we're becoming dislodged from our own spirituality. You know.
Yes.
I suppose that's on a deeper level, but many of these facets actually work on Wayne's site also, because there's anomalous stuff going on there that I get to hear about all the time, and this is why we're pushing for, you know, collaboration to get what it is there out into the open, because it's you know, it's part of the heritage of mankind, you know.
And that's, I guess, why I'm trying to say to Wayne, I don't think it's out of the ordinary, because if you had obviously, I won't say if you had ancient people build on this site, there must have been something very substantial to them to choose this place to start building. And what you're experiencing, this missing time or a bit of a time slip, sounds to me like it's pretty normal with all of the frequency and the energy lines that you're talking about.
I didn't really understand it at first. And so then I asked my youngest son, I said, we were sitting around after hunting and talking by the fire. And I said, you know where I hunt? And I said, have you ever went back there? I said, and felt like you were lost? And he kind of looks at me. He didn't want to say nothing. He says, he shook his head. Yeah. He says, many times. I said, how long did it last? He says, sometimes it was longer than others. And he says, but I didn't know where I was. He says, so then my oldest son, I had asked him about that. And he says, no, I never felt that. So get this, we're there in January doing the reenactment shoot, because unfortunately my son looks just like me at that age. So he's carrying the same rifle, wearing the same jacket and everything, taking the same route.
Very cool.
So we got the camera, we got the sound guy. We're doing this video that you just watched in January. If you ever want a lovely vacation, come to Wisconsin in January. I tell you, you can't beat it. You'll never forget it. So we're back there.
Drinks.
Yeah, a lot of fire and drinks. That's the best way to go back there. So we're back there, and the camera guy is sending up drones, and we're standing there waiting, waiting, hurry up and wait. So and he gets the drone up in the air, a different drone, and I said, "What's the matter?" He says, "My drone's lost." I said, "What do you mean it's lost?" He said, "I can't find it." He said, "It can't find itself. It just took off," and it's the magnetic readings, because I went onto the government website and I pulled up the magnetic readings, and they're just off the charts.
Oh, wow.
But they just affect everybody a little different. So I told my son, I says, they're trying to find their drone. Hopefully it'll come back. I says, but let's go to the tomb. So I says, you lead the way. He starts walking in the wrong direction. And I said, what's the matter? He said, I'm going to the tomb. I says, no, you're going the wrong way. I says, do you know where you're at right now? He stops and looks around. He says, not really.
So he was disoriented.
Yeah. And it only lasted for about 30 seconds. But it was the first time he ever felt it. But then as we got back there waiting for the camera equipment to come in to finish the shoot and everything, I said, you look uneasy. He says, yeah. He said, there's something here. He says, I don't know what it is. He says, but I said, were you lost? He says, yeah. And he was embarrassed, but that feeling has haunted me for 30 years.
Does it make you, so you say it's haunted you, so right there I can assume that there's some kind of fear and discomfort with it. How did he feel about it? Does he feel comfortable being out there alone?
My youngest son didn't like it. He says
Yeah.
he felt odd, like there was. I said this watching, and I kept looking around. Is someone watching me, or you felt like I don't know if it was a presence or not. I'm an investigator. I look for evidence. I look for things that I can physically prove.
Yeah.
People have other skills that I don't possess, but I don't discount that neither, because I think it's important that you need to look at a wide variety of information to come to a good conclusion. So now I got drones. He's got camera guys, got a drone that's lost, trying to come back. My oldest son experiences I experience compasses are not working, and there is some type of energy there. And for lack of better descriptors, it seems to fluctuate. It comes and it goes. When it wants to get your attention, it gets your attention. And other times,
nope, I'm gone. So to clarify, the reservation is 30,000 acres, right?
yes.
Okay, so let's narrow it down a little pinpoint. Just to give, because we have people asking how large is the area. So is the area obviously closer to the community, or is it further in? Is it the first 10 acres, let's say, circumference? Is it 50? What's
You would have a hard time finding it because it's almost in the center. And there's really no roads back there. There's logging.
Right.
And another tribal elder who I know well, he just passed, but his son called me. He says, my dad wants to tell you a story. He says, so he was in his late 70s, and he says, and he knew right where the area was. And he says, when I was back there working years ago, he says, I found some carvings too. I says, can you tell me what you found? He said, I was digging fill for the road with my cat and a large machine. He says, then I pulled up this rock, he says, and so we pushed it off to the side. He says, and I looked, he said there was Roman numerals carved into it. And I said,
Roman numerals. Wow.
I said, how long ago was this? And he told me. And we had worked that area logging. I grew up in a logging family, so I know the woods back there. So then, fast forward 30 years later, me and my brother go back there, and we found that rock still there, and it's got a 1 and a V carved into it. And I sent them pictures to Shawn to get a better look. But it's all in the same general area along these rivers. So these rivers were natural ways to travel. And if you're new to a country, you're going to follow the natural waterways and things.
That's right.
So you can come and go.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right. So okay. So how far back do you think, and either one of you can answer, because I know there's more findings with this as well, right? How far back do you think this goes in comparison to when the Templars came in? And then we'll talk about the tomb a little bit. So,
in a time essence, you mean?
Sure.
I think Shawn would have a better grasp of the type of carvings through the set of time.
Yeah, I mean, it's the repurposing of what was already there, the rebuilding or making something specifically from what already existed. So if you see a natural mound in, say, granite, for instance, and you were trying to store something or leave something for somebody else, and you wanted to make a significant way to protect it in stone, for instance, you wouldn't start, especially if you were on the move, you would repurpose a natural feature, shall we say, to serve that purpose. And that's what I think happened here. And I think the stones were marked accordingly by medieval travellers. And my guess is, educated guess, I suppose, to some extent, is that this could have been Templar treasure or something of that nature. It may not have been treasure. It may be something else, treasure of the mind. Who knows? But I believe that the Celts were there originally, or some other European race.
Yes.
In prior to Columbus, investigation of North America, because we know the Phoenicians were there. We know that the Romans were there. There's so much that has not been brought to the surface that we are, to some extent, linking with.
Right.
And yeah, we have to have an idea in our own minds of what was going on to form an opinion. Even if it's wrong, it's a starting point. But I'm not trying to belittle our approach, because what we have is actual carved features which can be analysed. We have the signs of ancient builders. We have the signs of medieval people. All these things we've discovered, and it needs now to be brought into the open so that more experts can be involved through Wayne. I recall that one of the in Lost Relics of the Knights Templar, for instance, when we, with Carl Cookson and Hamilton White, we investigated tomb structures in Kilmartin. Well, I mean, that went back 3,000 years. Why were medieval peoples there? And why were so many anomalous tombstones as well that went back in generations? These sites were, it was like a relay race of ancient races. They knew from every 200 years somebody else came along, or 500 years, the baton was passed along. And the medieval people had this knowledge, I believe, and were charting it. And similarly, the same process occurred in North America. And this ancient culture, or cultures that were there in North America, is for some reason it's not investigated enough. I don't why. I have no idea, because of course things can be proved wrong, but we have to start somewhere.
Well, I don't think people realize there actually is Templar connections to ancient Egypt, right? I mean, the Celts were in Egypt. I mean, you can go up and, they unearthed an Egyptian princess in Ireland. I mean, I believe you guys know her as Scotia, hence Scotland, which had all kinds of, it's the Egyptian community. The connections are so big that people don't really grasp the fact that the borders, they found a way to move around, and it was nothing once you got to the north. It was really nothing to go across the top and end up in North America. Right?
One of the things that I started looking at, like you had mentioned about a timeline, was that this all started from somewhere. So we put a video together. It's called The Lost Gospels of the 12 Disciples. Alan Scott, our producer in Cumbria. And Sarah Jane Goldingham was on it, and she was just amazed that I was bringing this information forward. I says, you think of the Egyptians and Moses, right? And in his leading the people out of Egypt, well, he was a trained scholar. He knew he knew all this stuff, and he wouldn't just have forgotten. I says, people don't understand. He didn't just forget this. He would have written this stuff down and saved it. And then you got the Essenes.
That's right.
The Essenes, the followers of Jesus, and the Templars. They knew of the Essenes and John the Baptist.
Well, they were all essentially Gnostics, right?
Exactly. And then,
yeah.
So then Sarah Jane brings the Druids in, and also the Chaldees. All of these people are originating in this same area, and they're moving in a certain direction. So what I did, a well-known rock structure in England called Stonehenge.
Got it.
So I came across this supposedly built by the Druids, supposedly older. Some people say it's older. But what I did is I found this certain map. I'm not going to say what it is.
Got it.
Diagram. I overlaid it, Stonehenge, and with the markings on it, it fit perfectly. And this came through the Vikings, up through the Druids and the Essenes and the Chaldees. So this information was traveling. And Sarah was so excited. She says, Wayne, I think you might have found, we know a certain landing spot. And she says, I think you may have found the landing spot of St. Brendan, the navigator. And I says, I don't know.
Right.
Excuse me. I said, but the math that was previously used, we refigured it, and we were off by 1 degree. And we're keeping that to ourselves because it all, and it's all out of these alignments. And now I know how they navigated. I know what the instruments that they used to navigate, and I'm trying to recreate that instrument again. I'm waiting for these certain products to come from a certain place so that I can make this object to navigate by. And I found out some very interesting stuff, how they did this. And with the planetary alignments, I'll give you this. We do planetary alignments too. 1421, there was 7 stars over North America over a certain site at one time. Now you talk about the 7 stars, you got the 7 churches, you got the 7 menorah, you know, symbolism obviously, but they were following this ancient trail. And we're reasonably sure that we're pretty doggone close.
Well, 7's a huge number in spirituality.
Yeah.
It sounds to me like I say, this is going to be an area of great historical significance on different levels. And I think the Templars, as far back as they go, is going to be probably maybe the last hands to have, touched this space. And, possibly, people come to a new world as well, and they don't always make it home, right? Harsh terrain, different weather than what they're accustomed to. Some may have gone further in, some may have gone further south, some may have gone back to the east. I don't know. So what do you guys hope, before we get to pictures and a quick break, what do you guys hope to find here? What is the Holy Grail for you guys? You can, either one of you.
One of the things I would like to know is who, and I can kind of figure out the why with Shawn's help. And it's the other site in Wisconsin, the Viking land claim symbol that supposedly shouldn't have been there, but it's there. And what we're trying to do is there's more stuff under the ground. And if we can just find that one evidence and Shawn can get on site, put his hands on his recovery techniques, I think we're going to change things the way that they've never been looked at before.
I agree with you. Shawn, what are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I agree. But there's kind of so much going on in my mind at the moment because I was able to work in the north of Scotland above Loch Eriabol. And there is a book available, which I was given by Dr. Tom. It's about megalithic lunar observatories in the north of Scotland. And originally, it's an area that this guy, Dr. Tom, was able to investigate so thoroughly as a scientist that it took him into an area above the established process of this type of investigation. He knew so much more than anybody else. It was unbelievable. And he reckoned that these stones and their arrangements were not only aids to ancient navigation, but some of them actually marked the cycle of the moon. And so then I'm now talking to another guy who's still around, another incredible investigator and scientist in his 80s. And he mentioned that many of these stones, particularly the one above Loch Eriabol, in his opinion, were actually marking the trajectory of the moon, and that they've been made by the lost tribes of Israel through the diaspora when they left the Middle East en masse, and that they were able to ascertain through being able to mark with stone, their sacred days, like the Feast of the Passover, for instance. And if you read about British Israelitism, then some of these theories overlap with theirs. And it's another area that I've got into investigating as well, because obviously we're talking about really sort of ancient history. And it's opening up so much. The Wayne's project is opening up so much, and as soon as we can get some way of getting over there, some funding or some big media investment, shall we say, then we've got the biggest archaeological roadshow ever, in my opinion.
Oh, I definitely think it's the gift that keeps on giving. I believe that you're going to span many different centuries, at least, if not getting into thousands of years. There's a lot of pre-Ice Age stuff. I think we've talked about the Stonehenge that's in Lake Michigan, for example. Yes. That proves that you had ancient people coming in from, over the other side of the ocean, who came across and started building there. So, of course, there's nothing stopping them from continuing on. And there's petroglyphs. You go up near Lake Superior, you'll find petroglyphs, ancient petroglyphs everywhere.
Yeah. One forget is that the land, they look at the land now and they think it was like that 1,000 years ago, and it wasn't. The rivers and lakes were completely different, and travel by boat and stuff was completely different. A lot of people don't. A lot of your modern highways today were actually Indian trails.
That's true. Yes.
Trails, and they used those same routes because they were so efficient. We have made connections, like trade was one of the big things. And you're very right, Michelle, when you say that we looked at this at many different ways. Trade was a big thing.
The fur trade.
And not just the fur trade, but we found that there was shells from Florida all the way into Nova Scotia. And there was from Mexico and Washington State, in a mound near Wisconsin. Wisconsin doesn't have no obsidian. they found an obsidian point that had been traded. So this trade, the Native Americans had massive trade routes. So they were very skilled at trade all the way across this country. They knew where to get this stuff. So that's where a lot of our main highways and mapping have changed and come to fruition.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, and we have to go to break.
Yeah. Okay, I'll ask after.
Okay.
So we'll do the break because this might take a little bit longer.
Well, hold on. We have a little treat. Little treat in keeping with everybody, with Shawn and Wayne being here and Team Templar. We'll start off with this.
Good morning, everyone. Wayne Murphy and Shawn Williamson from Team Templar, North America. When it comes to change, we're all about change, especially when it comes to changing history. But there's just one thing that we won't change, and that's the good taste of Folgers coffee in the morning, or anytime, as a matter of fact. A taste that you can count on, just like the history that we plan to change. Folgers is a history of its own that will never change. Have a good day, everybody from Team Templar, North America. Folgers.
Bam, you're on, Amelia.
Okay. Well, how do I follow that?
I know.
Gosh. Okay. I'll give it a try. You are listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano, coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans on 107.7 FM, as well as on the Gulf Coast on 105.3 FM radio. We're live on Roku and we're on Rumble as well. And newly added Alexa Prime. Our special guests tonight are dear friends of ours, and we've had them on the show several times. If this is your first time tuning in, make sure to search back into the archives so you can catch up with what's going on today. Those special guests are Wayne Murphy and Shawn Williamson from TTNA, and they are giving us updates and a few other treats, a couple of trailers. If you want to see more on them, please check out the YouTube channel. The link is in the description. If you're just tuning in, don't worry. You can stream our archives on any platform that you normally use. Search United Public Radio and then The Outer Realm to find us. Remember to click like and subscribe. Add us to your playlist. Set up those notifications. You don't want to miss a show. Kindly share us with your friends and family. Now, the gratitude moment in the show. Thank you to the big kahuna here, the Folgers Coffee. Thank you so much for your continued support in sponsoring our show right from day one. We love you and we appreciate you, Folgers Coffee. Next, our banner and promo media is courtesy of Steve McGinnis, horror illustrator, fantastic artist. He is incredible. He creates commissioned pieces, not just the horror genre as well. And you can find him on Facebook. Thank you, Steve. Our intro and our outro is courtesy of Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon. I love saying that, like Dr. Snick, the Sonic Surgeon. Just love it. AKA Justin Snicker, award-winning composer, vocalist, and musician. You can find his music on Amazon and Bandcamp. Stream on any platform that you normally use. And find Dr. Snick posting on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you, Justin. Lastly, kindly, you know the drill. If you're watching us on Facebook, or if you're listening to us on SoundCloud or Spotify or any of the 250 platforms that we use, please smash that like button. If there's a subscribe, hit that subscribe, hit the notifications, and share us up. We would greatly appreciate it. And I'm done.
All right. So we're going to get on to pictures. And I thought we would just start with this one. So here's the album. And here is who wants to go? There we go.
This is what I first discovered in the reenactment video. I went back there after I discovered this and took these pictures in about 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And as you notice the tomb, there's a large rock that must have fell off the top of it, off to the left, if you're looking at it. Round rock, if you think of a tire, that is flat on both sides, and you can see peck marks on the bottom where it's been worked. On each side of the rock where it meets the walls, that has been hollowed out so it fits in there very well. And if anybody was going to ask me to describe it, I would say, if it's a symbolistic thing, you would think of the tomb of Christ, where Joseph Arimathea gave up his tomb. You got the round rock at the entrance. On the back wall, there's 3 crosses carved, and there's faint etchings of what appears to be a sword. So you got this symbolism, the 3 crosses, Christ and the 2 thieves, the round rock closing the tomb, the symbolist possible sword carving inside the tomb, like in the Garden of Gethsemane when Jesus' disciple cut off the slave of the high priest. So there's a lot of things happening here that once Shawn and we get together and boots on the ground, I think we're going to light a fire.
Well, I'm just pulling up other photos. So one moment here. It just saves me scanning through all of them. So this is from the interior?
Yes.
Okay. So
notice how the walls are just so perfectly at 90 degrees, and they're all flat.
Oh, yeah, they're cut perfect.
Yeah.
They're perfectly cut. Okay, so now let me just keep moving along. Hold on. Because there's a lot of really fascinating stuff here. I wish I could show them all, but there's just so many. Okay, we're going to come in with this one here. Hold on. There we go.
That's one of the large quarried rocks, a rectangle that's just laying on top of the ground. And there is a forest around these rocks. So these rocks have been there a long time, and you can see the moss and lichen growing on these rocks. Some are partially under the ground. What's underneath them? Any carvings? We don't know, because they're not moved, because we want them to be found in the original condition when we can get on site.
And I love that. I think I've been pretty much a harpy about things like that. Don't touch anything. Just, and I think it's important when you have a site like that that's been untouched. It's like a crime scene. You don't want to touch it. You want to leave it until you have people who have certain way to do things, right? So this looks like a series. They're the same type of stones? Are they?
They appear they're the same. They're quarried out that same square. And Shawn can give better techniques about how that is done, but you can see how symmetrical they are. But there is one picture I can't wait for you to bring up, is that circle that Shawn had wrote about. And he has some great knowledge of this.
Do you want me to show the black and white photo of it?
Show the color one first, and then bring the black and white. That's where we enhanced it.
Okay, because you've got a lot of really good photos in that series. I think I've got the right one. So let me just do I think this is it. Yes? Is this it?
That's it.
All right. Woo.
Excellent.
Okay. All right, we'll bring this up a little bit.
Shawn Williamson, go ahead.
I mean, this could be seen on the side of a cathedral or church anywhere in Europe, and you can see that the surface of the granite or granite-like stone is rough. It's not flat. Usually when something is carved, you flatten the surface with a process with mallet and chisel to make it clearer. This has been incised into a rough surface very precisely, and it shows that whoever made this mark had got geometric knowledge. They could create a simple circle with a compass or other yeah, or other mechanism. There are obviously marks inside that we need to get closer to, but that in itself, on a rock face, with all the others in, off the coast of Lake Superior into Wisconsin. I mean, for goodness sake, if that doesn't ping people into action regarding their own heritage, then what will? Because it's incredible. And
who do you think put this here?
I think these stones were marked by the Templars to some extent. I believe that they were moving all. It's not just about the Templars. I'm not going to over egg the pudding with them, because
no, for sure,
it's they were a platform where you can examine the signs of other civilizations that they knew about, and in my opinion, that carving was probably done significantly to mark that rock-like structure in Wisconsin for others. They were whoever had made those marks were moving across the states to some extent, some place that we don't know about, some trails we don't know about. For what reason? Let's just say we don't know why. But they marked their passage over Wisconsin for others to see. Now that is the intriguing factor for me, and it joins up with many other scholars, presumptions about what was going on in the States, and this is what we need opening up. I think the Wisconsin project is unique, but I think it's one of several, and that definitely need further investigation.
I would agree with you 100%, because what you've been finding here has been unbelievable. I'm going to keep putting up pictures because there's a lot of symbols here for you guys. This one here. What is the stone here?
This is near the tomb. And it's, you can see there's like an arrow pointing. I don't understand the carving technique, but I sent this to Shawn, and it's, from what I've learned and researched, it's like a directional marker. So I think it's showing a direction to travel, and it being so close to the tomb, that's another thing that has to have Shawn there to to bring the knowledge forward.
Okay, I'm going to go on to another one. All righty, one second. I'm just trying to get them all on my ducks in a row here. All right, hold on. Okay, here's another cool one.
There it is. That's from a different angle. That's the same rock. And if you look to the left, you can see the small rock sticking up. That's just over that shoulder is the tomb.
Okay. So getting our bearings. Yep. Okay. All right. Hold on. I'm going to get something else. There's some, I want to try to find, where did they go?
You can see we did a large area search very meticulously.
Oh, you did. You absolutely did. I'm trying to go back in right now and find, this is the one. There's a series here that you sent me that I want to share, because I find this fascinating.
If you'll notice them trees, them are hemlock trees in front of this rock outcropping. And I had sent these to an archaeologist, and a geologist to look at, and he says, "Oh, them are all natural." And I says, "Well, where did these stones go that fell off? Well, a glacier did that." I don't know too many glaciers that do right angles.
Right.
So what I did is maybe there's more pictures similar to this, but as you back out, you don't see those stones that are laying on the ground if they would have just fell off. But Shawn can give you more insight and depth
the work that was done.
This is close by to that one too, right?
So
Yes.
pretty.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, Shawn, jump in anytime. I can go back to any picture you want to see. I'm trying to find, I think you sent me one that actually has, here it is. This is the one I was trying to find where you're farther back. Okay. There we go.
That's it.
Yeah.
Shawn?
Yeah, I need to be there to do some close-up analysis, really, and the ones that I've seen that are incised, without a doubt, they've been created by tempered steel chisels and hammered into the surface. It's not rocket science, but it's stuff that was done well during the medieval period, and the certain techniques involved that are evident with the incisions and the symbolic carvings, that the pictures of what I've seen, very similar to the circle carving there. So you're in an area where metal tools were unlikely to have been used. So that was really, they were the tools of a foreign culture and European culture, of course, that made these marks. But why? What were they marking this rock edifice for? And as Wayne has pointed out, with those keystones and various other stone workings, it looked like they were able to split stone as well and build it in a rudimentary way to create this tomb-like structure. And all this can be analyzed. It can be, the carvings can be analyzed. There may even be metal residue that we can take samples of from the stone and go further still, with the help of reasonable science. And it's there for the taking, really. And I know that my feeling is that as soon as they start to lift the turf off and do sectional examination of the earth around, they're going to find lots of stuff. And Wayne's kind of keeping a lid on that at the moment. But that would be one of the first things I would try and get moving on that site, whilst I was examining the carvings in detail, and that process being filmed, because we can't. It is something that we've got tangible evidence. It's just getting people to be aware of this, the importance of their own culture, and other sites accordingly.
I agree with you. I think there's a lot underground. I think Alan has a comment. Do you want to get this, Amelia? Because I do disagree, unfortunately, Alan. Yeah.
Alan says, to be honest, I don't think the Knights Templar got to America. They were too focused in Europe and the Middle East. I'm going to disagree with you as well, Alan, because there's evidence all over Canada and US.
Oh yeah, tons of it.
Maybe just dig a little bit.
With Dr. Kathleen Ann Ball, who's got the Templar cave in Brazil. That goes back to 850. There's definitely
Portugal. There's a lot of lands that will be discovered. And can I ask that? Oh no, we still have pictures. I don't want to forget about that question.
Go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Michelle. Wayne, I'm going to ask you this because as you were speaking of the land, I started to draw because sometimes things just come through me, right? I need to know, I've got goosebumps everywhere. There is a blocked off cave that goes underground that you haven't found yet.
I was told that, and it's supposed to be underneath a waterfall.
I was just going to say there's a small creek. I can show you the picture. I can't draw. I am not the Pisanos from Pisa. I'm simply a medium, but I can show you. I've got northeast west. It's in a west corner. It's past further away from a small creek that continually flows even through the winter. Even though it's small, it's got considerable force, which makes sense because then up a mountain, I see trees and I can't see past it. Now, there is a tree that is embedded with what looks like quartz, but it's milky. So I don't know what the stone is, but it's there and it's not far, but it's underground. Feel for the ground. Listen to the ground when you're walking there, because you will hear, you should get some kind of sign of that it's not as solid underneath you, if that makes sense. Okay.
Yes.
If I'm walking towards the north, I turn west and there's a fully lots and lots of trees. But this tree with the crystal, maybe it's coming out of the stone, the tree. Maybe this crystal's, the way I feel is like this tree's coming out, the crystal's here, and it's coming from the ground and through it. And it's not dead, but it's under. They found a natural cave under, not sideways, under.
When you were talking about what you thought was a mountain, as you go up the river, I'm not going to give a direction because then...
No.
And once you get on top of this rock structure, you can see over the trees.
Okay.
So you're very close.
Look to your left.
Correct.
Okay, look to your left far corner.
And see, I have skills as an investigator.
Yeah, me too. Not like yours. Nothing like yours. I'm not trained.
Well, I'm pretty fortunate to have some good training. But one thing I do is like have in these rock structures you don't understand. You search for people with that skills. And Shawn was like a blessing that just come to me. I think it's almost, we talk a lot in private and things. It was almost like he was called to be the one to help put this together.
Yeah, we both were.
And how does somebody from Wisconsin meet a stonemason whom he needs 40 years later to turn the key into this lock and to open this mystery?
Everything at its proper time.
Yes.
Yeah.
40 years is the
proper
trial.
Time. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really, I'll jump in there because, you know, it's really strange that I was on the Great Lakes as a merchant seaman. My first experience in stone carving was with an Inuit who taught me how to carve soapstone. And that's before I came back to the UK and went to stone carving college. You know, my old man was a master mariner on the Great Lakes and on the eastern seaboard. So I was in the UK, and me and my brother ended up working on the Great Lakes as seamen in our early days. And, you know, I was involved, I think there was a couple of books came out from Canadian authors, and I was reading about that stuff right back in the early 80s, and how it's turned full circle now back to working with Wayne on Lake Superior is bizarre beyond belief, isn't it? I mean, what are the chances of that I should return back to the UK, pick up the skills that are required to investigate stone carvings in Wisconsin, which I probably passed when I was a merchant seaman 40 years earlier. I mean,
isn't that crazy?
You can't make it up, can you?
No, but that's why I always, you know, there's a firm timing is everything. There's a time and place, and it has to fall into that. There's a reason why you didn't catch it then.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I agree.
If you were going to make a movie, you would have a difficult time writing this script because it's 40 years into the past, and the fact of these pieces together through life experiences, my life experiences as an investigator, and Shawn's life experiences as a professional carver and rock investigator. So this is all coming to fruition, and with your ladies' help, bringing this other facets that you possess, it's making that fourth leg of that table. And I think there's things that are going to be unearthed that people would only wish they knew of.
Mm, I agree. I think that there's a lot underground. I think you're going to find a large area. I think it's just going to keep going all the way down. Do you get the sense that the people who were there, and we can talk about Templar since we are Team Templar North America, we'll just back up a minute. Do you think that they went through Wisconsin? Do you think they made their way out?
I do. I'm just going to back up a little bit before I jump to that.
Yeah.
When Amelia made that picture,
I sent it to Michelle because I don't want it. She
That's
just
fine.
reminded me not to have it on camera, so she'll forward it to you.
That's good. Someone in Europe sent me a similar picture that you drew.
Wow.
How does that work?
Has to be told because you haven't found it yet. So they're just going through someone else again to remind you. So
what, in regarding to the Templars, these travelers were following these ancient travel lines. It was probably St. Brendan and Navigator. There's people that say you couldn't make that trip. Okay, that's fine. But the Vikings certainly were here. Who were they following? They were following the Irish. So now you've got this Viking knowledge going into the Templars. All of this was being passed forward. And come and Wayne Murphy and Michelle and Amelia, now we're breaking some rocks.
Let me pose this question to you guys. Templars, we know they're all connected. Templars they're connected to the Celts. The Celts are connected to the Egyptians. Templars are connected to the Egyptians. It's all one big circle, all pieces of the puzzle. Do you think the Templars would have arrived with information given to them? Do you think they would have been told there's something in Wisconsin, go to Wisconsin, go, because we know they went through Nova Scotia because Henry Sinclair was there, right? So do you think they would have just been given that information to keep foraging ahead to your site?
Yeah, I believe so, because when I was doing the Lost Gospels, the 12 disciples, the Essenes were great historian, and everyone knows that the Dead Sea Scrolls were written by the Essenes.
Yes.
The Essenes were putting their scrolls underneath the temple. When the temple was sacked the first time, everything was just about taken, but a lot of stuff was brought back. But when Rome sacked the temple, there was nothing left. But still, the Templars persisted. And what does the Pope do? He sends them underneath the temple to the stables. I don't believe, this is my opinion, I don't believe they were looking for the menorah. I don't believe they were looking for the lost ark. They were looking for this ancient secret knowledge that the Essenes, the Egyptians, the Druids, the Chaldees all had. And one has to remember the Essenes and John the Baptist, they were in the same time. And they had this direct knowledge of Christ. And they were writing all of this supposedly maybe another gospel of Christ. So, and this stuff was so precious that the Pope was afraid of it. And what's the other thing to do with it is to flee to a land that they heard of. And was called La Merca. People say that's not true. But La Merca goes way back to the Phoenicians. And La Merca is the North Star.
Mm-hmm.
So we're making connections.
There's a lot that's yet to come. And I mean, I wish we had another hour to do it because there is so much. And I think it would be good to do it again. As we uncover more, as you do that and you guys start adding things, we most certainly can keep going on, because I think there's just going to be a whole lot more. I think you're going to find, I wouldn't be surprised if you don't find burial sites. I don't be surprised if you just find a lot hidden underground, more artifacts and so on. Things have shifted, of course. Of course, things have shifted. And I think you're going to just keep discovering things. It's fascinating. But on the topic of Jesus Christ, Shawn, you sent me a photo and you wanted to talk about the shroud for a few minutes.
Oh.
So as we're slowly coming up to the top of the hour, I'd like you to talk about that. I'm going to put that up right now, actually. Okay. So you can talk about it. Can I put the picture up, by the way? I don't want to just
please
assume.
do, yeah.
Okay, I don't want to just assume I could plurp it up there. Okay. There we go. Perfect.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, well, this is a carving, the second image from the Holy Shroud of Turin of Christ, in my opinion. And I was just going to bring up that Andrew Sinclair had been involved in the early investigation of the shroud itself.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a way of highlighting how people and science can get things wrong, because he pointed out that when they did the analysis of the shroud, they actually took the sample to radiocarbon date in some way. I don't know how that process is done specifically. It's not my area, but the sample that they took was from the edge, and they all of a sudden said, "Oh, this is a medieval forgery." Very, very quick, aren't they, to run down Christianity wherever they get the chance. And it's a peculiar facet of science that I'm not keen on. But what had happened was that they'd repaired the shroud in the medieval times, and of course that's what they took the sample. It was a medieval repair. And then when they actually got into the surface of the shroud itself nearer, and it was a minuscule sample that they took from the middle of the shroud, it was contemporary with the time of Christ. Not only that, there was pollen or some seed content that was site specific to the area of Calvary. And it just goes to show, doesn't it, how we can be wrong. And I know everybody can make mistakes, but if we can combine where we're coming from with the best facets of science for this particular investigation on Wayne's site, then bingo, it's going to be a genesis, and it's going to be win-win, because this is going to be a major archaeological discovery in North America. It's just we need the right people to come to the table now.
Right. I agree. And I think things come along as they're meant to, when they're meant to. I think the more you have, more you're discovering, the more you have to offer. And that's, just for starters. So last closing comments on where are you guys heading with now? Like, what's the next step for you, aside from the things that we've discussed?
I think the next step is get the proper funding, and where we do not have certain expertise skills, we bring those experts in to assist us. And at that time, with all of our combined knowledges, my investigator skills, Shawn's massive amount of knowledge on carvings. Once you get these right people there and they start seeing the immense size of the tomb, the other things, I think it's going to be, I think it's just going to be great.
Mm-hmm. Shawn?
Yeah, I was just going to add that, try and work around what Wayne's discussing, but we call it oblique lateral, and it's kind of a way of investigating things that isn't, from A to B on a linear process. But I think that sponsors will come forward. I'm already in touch with a couple at the moment involved in stone, big, massive, mega stone quarries. And also, I haven't got around to it yet, but I think Wayne's going to be getting in touch with some iron ore producers on Superior, for instance, that might be interested in highlighting this as a historical extra value, really, to what they're involved with as industry. And if we can get some of these people involved as well as sponsorship, whichever way that works, then I think that will be an aid, shall we say, to the media as well, which will, it's all grist to the mill. It's, it's going to work in the right direction sooner rather than later, I think, at the moment, the way things are going.
I think if you want a perspective from what I do, a consultation,
please,
is I would recommend sponsorship is great. Just don't touch anything to this point. So like heavy machinery is what I'm talking about. Like don't come in. Just,
That's not going to happen.
No, I think right now, like I say, you want the discoveries. You want it to be enticing for someone to come in and make those discoveries with you. They want to be a part of that. I think that's part of bringing the journey to the world.
We call that
to the world.
Yeah, we call that a cursory search, where it's just evidentiary on top what you can see and very close to underneath it. And then as it moves forward, we can progress forward.
Absolutely. And then I think you'd get some of the best equipment for the task that could do things is less invasive way.
Yeah, photogrammetry is a big one that should be in the tomb, and
satellite imaging, things like that.
And cymatics.
Ultrasound.
Yes.
Ultrasound cymatics would be so great because the frequencies that these rocks give off.
Exactly. There's so much. There's so many different techniques that you can use just to give you an idea where everything is before you even break ground.
Exactly.
And then say, okay, this is the hot spot, or this is the hot spot, and I think I love the idea of being able to just look through these symbols, just like an x-ray, just looking at these symbols. How deep do they go into the rock? Trying to get as much of the image as possible. It's like there's so much out there that I think you guys are doing this in the perfect age, because we do have incredible technology, as Shawn was mentioning with the shroud. There's so much incredible technology out there to simplify your task, that it just you can actually have a good time and enjoy the ride. You don't have to be killing yourself to that point. But I do agree that it's very, very important that Shawn get on site.
Yeah, it's a validation process too, by having multiple sources of imagery, sound and stuff like that. It's just further validation to the carvings themselves and the structure.
Take baselines with EMF.
Yes. The EMFs are crazy there.
Yeah. Take baselines, record them, time of day, what time of year, like everything, where the sun and the moon are. There's something that'll
trigger.
And I think, maintaining the integrity of the location is very important. I think if you do that, you'll find more. You don't want to be like another site that we all know about that
Oh
just
my
wants to
gosh.
blow
It's
the holes and
perforated.
everything.
Perforated island.
I'm surprised that thing's still standing. It's not
Yeah.
underwater by now. But
We've turned on working with people like that.
yeah, I don't blame you. There's just so much. It's not like it's one small concentrated area either. You have
No.
quite a large area to work with, and I'm just excited to see what you guys come up with. And of course, I'm going to, keep working at my end as per our previous discussion. Right.
It's a real blessing to be able to come on your show and to
Oh,
reach
Oh, thank you. Your
so many
friends.
people. Well, and to reach so many people and to be with Shawn, just to give this discovery life, and for people to understand that we're doing it the right way, and we're doing it honestly. Let the chips fall where they may.
And where they're meant to.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And thank you guys both for coming on. It was such a pleasure having you return. And of course, we'll do it again because you each have exciting things coming up. I know Shawn's got another book in the works and all kinds of stuff going on. So I think we could just, look at the new year and see where all that goes. In the meantime, I'll keep you posted on a whole lot of other stuff.
That was great.
That's brilliant. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for staying awake, Shawn.
Yes, Shawn. Time for slumber.
It's time to get back to bed now. But the thing is, it was totally engaging, and you're great people, all of you, and you've got a fabulous show going out there all over the United States and into Europe and in the world now, and we're grateful of the of that exposure, and we're all working in the right direction. That's the main thing.
Exactly. Well, thank you. It was a pleasure having you both on, and we shall be in touch.
Sounds great.
All right.
Work on another Folgers commercial. We need a new one. Coming up for Spooktober.
Okay, I will work something up.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Good night. Well, we have come to the end of another fantastic segment. Honestly, I love these sort of segments. They're just so informative. So big thank you to Wayne Murphy and Shawn Williamson for catching us up on what's going on. And there's just so much more I wish we could say, but there's a lot of information that it's still coming to light. So we're kind of leaving it there. So big thank you to Folgers Coffee, Justin Snicker, Steve McGinnis for all of your sponsorship. We appreciate you so very, very much. Remember to like us up, subscribe, share, comment. I always get back to the comments. So please do that. Tomorrow night, guys, open mic. That's right. High strangeness in the news. There's a lot of stuff going on right now. Oh my gosh. We're just going to have fun, and we're going to be a little bit, we have to be more interactive. There was so much information tonight. It was tough to get to any of the comments, really. But we're happy to address some of those tomorrow as well, if you'd like to put them back in chat. So thank you all for joining us. You make it that much more fun, you guys. And we'll see you tomorrow night for open mic night. Good night.